Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, now we turn our attention to politics. And as you may have seen, observed over the weekend, different protest rallies, I should say, for different political parties in support, of course, of their candidates who they always believe that they will clinch it at the end of the day. Well, we'll examine some developments within those political parties, and at the moment, we're joined by Senator Ayo Arishi, who is a member of the APC. Good morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Nice to see you again.
Thank you. So, maybe we should even ask, how is the campaigns going on now for your party, even though there are questions as to, is everything properly constituted now? Have they kicked off? What's going on?
Well, people are working. There are different groups, working at the grassroots level. And of course, a few days ago, the Swagger people were in Oshun, and they had a very big rally. They campaigned at the grassroots level, and that has been going on, in most of the southwestern states. Different groups from different parts of the country, they're engaged in campaigns right now. Nobody's actually waiting for the committee or anything before they do what is needful. So the idea of the fact that this election will have to be taken to the people has defined the modus operandi for the campaign. Everybody is actually working to ensure victory for the party. So, but a proper launch will take place. I mean, you would agree that a campaign...
When is that going to happen?
Well, that is dependent on the party and the campaign organization itself. So, as soon as, of course, it was supposed to be on the 10th, but it has been shifted. So, as soon as things are in place, particularly there were questions about the members of the committee. It's like everybody wants to have, wants to be recognized.
We understand that they're reviewing the list now, just checking every name just to be sure they're reviewing the list so that they can, as you say, carry as many people along as possible. So that's part of what's delaying that list from...
Yes, I believe so. And they're looking critically again to be sure that, okay, those they're putting in positions, they're really people who are committed, ready to work for the victory of the party. Most of the lists, the lists constituted in the past, yes, very good lists, but a little bit too few for those who are interested in actually working.
When you say that everybody is working, because, I mean, even at the grassroots level, you'll always have people who will campaign no matter what happens or what's happening at the top. But it appears as though there are those who are working at cross purposes, not working in unison for the party. For instance, I mean, the meeting that was held by Northern Leaders Consultative Group on the 8th of October at the NAF Center, Kado, where they're saying they will not work with or for the same faith ticket candidature. So that to them is they say no, this is a no-no. We can't push this. And they're strong on that, saying that's clearly going to affect your party. How's your party going to handle that?
Well, you have to give it to the leaders of the party and the candidates themselves that, look, this election is about winning, and it's about the numbers. As undesirable as the same faith ticket is, it appears that under the
you also think it's undesirable?
Of course, I mean, I would have preferred a situation where you have a Muslim-Christian situation, but because of what is on the ground, when you take a Christian as your vice president from the north, how is that person going to win any votes in the east, which constitute the majority of the Christians in the country? It's looking more like the Eastern Bloc is very likely going to vote for Obi Obi is looking more like that. Because these are sentiments that we have not been able to get rid of in our polity. It's always going to happen. Now, most of the Southwest will vote for Tinubu, Christian, Muslim, it doesn't matter. Because we have, by and large, intermarried. We lived, I mean, it's not an issue. We're talking of, the problems that we have in the country. How do we tackle it?
Many actually thought that probably by now it might have been a non-issue within members of the party, that let them just go and see if Nigerians will elect them. But the Northern Consultative Group, if anyone should understand, they are the ones who perhaps are supposed to be more understanding than their Southern counterparts. But here they are saying, this is an issue. So it then raises the question as to the kinds of consultation that went on before that announcement was made, because those who think if it was properly done, this wouldn't be coming up even until now.
Well, Chamberlain, there is no perfect solution anywhere. There is, even if Tinubu had picked a Christian, look at it between the bloc and the Northeast, where we have Christians. If you had picked one of them, the other one that is not picked, or the rest, they will not be feeling maybe marginalized. It's a problem of politics.
That's hypothetical, so we don't know, but you're in politics, so you will know.
Of course, because you look at it when, even if I'm working and at the end of the day, I don't get, my own politics is quite different from the average politician. But if I don't get picked, I'll feel shortchanged, and the zeal will no longer be as, it's supposed to be. That is the selfishness about politics. So when you look at it, the party has come up with a candidate. And it's not as if we've not seen something like that in the past. We had the scenario of Abiola Kengibe. They were both Muslims. Things like this, where we should be looking more
but we know there were different circumstances at that time.
Of course.
Completely different.
Yes. But when you look at the record of Asiwaju in Lagos, the current VP was his commissioner.
Yeah, but Senator, this not
when you look at what's happened there, and the last two governors, which came in with the influence of Asiwaju, they were Christians. So these are not issues that we feel like, okay, the moment Asiwaju wins this election, that his focus will be on religion. If it's on religion, we're not going anywhere. The truth of the matter is, religion will not take us to space. It's not going to resolve our power problems.
That's, I'm sure a lot of Nigerians can appreciate that but we also know that religion is a big part. Well, I think what Chamberlain has tried to highlight is that it was aimed that within your party, religion is still a problem. And so, there are questions as to if it is a problem for members of your own party, who should be going out to defend this, or who should be going out to say it doesn't matter, but it is a problem for them. How do you then present a united front in the face that all of the APC has to defend our markets, as we go into the 2023 elections?
Well, like I have said, you see, it's not as if these Christians who are members of the party who are totally opposed to this Muslim ticket will come into power and begin to champion religious activities. It's part of our developmental process that will begin to educate our people that religion does not feed you.
This education
and it doesn't make our roads.
This education, is it going to start within your own party?
No, look at it this way. We are saying we want, it's not as if we want, but mandatorily we have to have another president because the incumbent is leaving office. Now, are we going to tell the new president that everything that was being done in the old ways should remain. It should now go there and begin to talk about religion. We are saying it should not be the case. It has its own, there is an agenda, there is a demand for the nation where we have unemployment to be resolved, we have lack of productivity to be resolved, we have the power problem to be resolved. There are so many things confronting us in the country.
I'm glad that you also highlight all of these issues which are to be resolved.
Yes.
Unemployment, electricity, security, production. The economy is, inflation is running away with the wind, etc. The exchange rate is something else. No one can understand what is happening with that. It's almost impossible to export or even import products. I mean, if you got to go with what the dailies have on their front pages this morning, it should be something that should worry any government. And the truth of the matter is that it is your own party which is sitting at the highest levels of government, that if anything were to be done about this situation, it should be your party which has its feet to the fire. So if these problems persist, despite your 7 years of being in government, what really are you going to be telling the Nigerian people?
Well, thank you very much. Like I said earlier, government is work in progress. Everything you've highlighted, there have been solutions, there has been improvements from this APC government. And the foundations being laid are things that you can hardly challenge. Now, we had power problems. We had a situation where we have NEPA, we have all these distribution companies. Now, I understand an act has been, passed to ensure that private people, state governments, can begin to generate their own power. That is a foundation for that sector, to see or witness very good reform. That is one area. And I've discussed in the past that the foundation being laid by this government to even know who are Nigerians through the national identity registration is humongous. We've moved from like about 10, 20 million people to close to 100 million registration. And that is the foundation for
development. Let me take you back to electricity.
Now, yes.
Let me take you back to electricity because you talked about how people have now been, private companies have now been empowered to be, and state governments can now generate their own electricity. As at 7 years ago, we were producing around 3,000 or so megawatts. We're still where we are. We haven't been able to, go beyond what it was that the PDP government left for this administration. We've been told that, the TCN, it has increasing capacities to hold much more or to transmit much more. Yes. But from what we have seen, every time the grid is challenged or every time there is an attempt to put much more on the grid, it collapses. So can you really say empirically that we have done any much different or that the Nigerian people have witnessed anything different from what they witnessed in the PDP era?
The same thing, I will go back to the same answer, that the fact that this situation persists is what has informed the government that, look, we need to change the dynamics. They have recognized that it's a problem. And they have now come up with a word that, look, private people, in the past, if that were to be the case, in the last 7 years, then it would have been possible for us to increase generation, to increase transmission, and so much so that if the distribution companies are able to receive generated power in adequate measure, we will feel it at the consumer's level. Right now, the generation at 7,000 has not improved because people have not been allowed to generate. Now people are now able to generate. So we are looking at the future. That's okay. These are the problems. And it's even a good thing that these things have been pointed out. And that's the responsibility of the public and the press. Right. That, look, we challenge our government. That, look, you are not doing this. And what are the responses? The other day, you saw what happened at the National Assembly. the president was being threatened with impeachment, because to know the gravity of how insecurity is warring in society.
All right.
Things have improved.
Yeah, we've since been joined by Chief Dele Momodu, who is the Director of Strategic Communications of the PDP. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, and thanks for inviting me.
Well, we did ask him about the internal developments within his party that may stall their working together in unison rather than across purposes, as it appears to many. So the same question will go to you as well. What is strategic? Because we read today that the party seems to be moving on without, the aggrieved group, which Rivers Governor is involved in. Perhaps you could tell us, is that the case? Has the party moved on without reconciling with the group?
Oh, I mean, reconciliation is a continuum. It's a process. And it is virtually impossible sometimes to have 100% of a group of people agree on the same things. I know that even just a few days ago, some of our people were still talking to the aggrieved parties. But I can tell you 80% were ready. We're very ready. I mean, if you look at the composition of the Presidential Campaign Council, if you look at the caliber of people, the technocrats, the professionals, I mean, you will know that PDP is way ahead of all the other parties.
But you know that 20% is more than a fine margin, and it could cost you the elections.
I said, as of today,
80%.
you will have 80%. By tomorrow, it might be 90%. About 2-3 weeks ago, maybe it was much less. I know a lot of people who were aggrieved, and as at last night, were talking to me that we're tired of this wahala. I'm telling you, it's the truth. But it's not everything you can divulge on television. But I know that the process is ongoing.
Okay, but
politicians like action.
But this 20% is with the Wiki group that's not been fully reconciled.
Not necessarily. What happens is that there are people who are attached emotionally to certain groups. They are tired, but so that nobody will accuse them of disloyalty. So they are just patching and waiting. But I can tell you, politicians love action. The moment they start seeing their mates, going around, doing what they need to do, they also want to be a part of that action. That's why I'm telling you that by tomorrow, it might be 90-95%. I'm very sure of that. Some parties have not even been able to take off at all. We are very organized. We have everything in place. I resumed office. I was announced Thursday night. By Friday morning, I was already at the party office. So we're ready.
Why is this so difficult to reconcile, to make it 100% or 90%?
Husband and wife can go their separate ways and they can come back later. It happens.
But the party always says that we're the largest party, we're the oldest party. Yeah, they can't reconcile.
That is why you will appreciate the 80%. The 80% of PDP is more than 200% of some other parties.
Well, today it's supposed to be the big flag off. I don't know if it's still happening today, considering the fact that it's a public holiday in Akwa Ibom State.
Oh, we're on ground. I was on my way to Uyo when I got a call from my brother that we should come, and that's the seriousness that we attach to this work. So I immediately contacted Governor Tambua and former Governor Leah Limoke, and I told them, what do we do? He said, no. This is very important. Go to channels. And here we are. We're very ready. Everybody's there. Our candidate landed in Uyo yesterday. And I mean, if you're on social media, you would have seen the ecstasy all over Akwa Ibom at the moment.
For a number of people, I mean, yes, we're used to rallies, and maybe that also, wakes a bit of excitement amongst the Nigerian population. And for a number of people, yes, they look forward to that. They love the rallies. They're like big parties, carnivals, more or less. But increasingly, people are beginning to say that political parties cannot run in the manner that they have been running. We have like the longest period, the longest campaign season that we have seen in quite a while. How does your party intend to maximize it in such a way that, whatever it is that it is promising the Nigerian people is broken down in a way that provides room for engagement, not just, sloganeering and how do I put it now? Just with the excitement that the rallies bring, but to actually get forums whereby conversations are had between those who want to govern and those whom they seek to govern.
That is why I am here. Last night, if you were on social media, I was engaging people including the obedience, and a lot of them, if you go, it's recorded on my Instagram page, till 1 a.m. I did not sleep. I was engaging people, talking to them, and they are amazed at the man. A lady called from the US in the night and started saying all sorts about our candidate, Atiku Abubakar is this and that. And I just played the tape. Chief Obasanjo once said something about him. I played the tape. I said, you all refer to what was said before, but you did not refer to what was said after in 2019. So there is a lot that we're doing. We are not using the traditional methods. We're not using the analog method. We are very digital. I can tell you there are not many people today who can use Twitter Space the way I do, who can use Instagram Live, who can do Facebook Live, who can go on Clubhouse. We're modern. And that is why our candidate has surrounded himself with the best team you will find anywhere in the world.
Well, Senator is green about that. I'm sure, but Senator will say, well, you forgot some of us here. Can you go and use that platform?
Oh, no, I want to see the platform and the followership. It's important.
All right, we'll dwell on that possibly when we return in just a moment after the break. Do stay with us. Welcome back. We're with Chief Dele Mamodu, Director Strategic Communication for the PDP, and Senator Ayo Arishe, who is a member of the APC. Well, Senator, today we've got two candidates, two presidential candidates, at least of the leading ones. Okay, I know they'll say, what about all the other political parties? Well, at least from the way it comes across, the APC and the Labour Party. So if you look at it from that perspective, then you have the PDP presidential candidate. So just taking an idea on face value, it suggests as though, how is it that the two Southern candidates will not cancel themselves out?
Oh, well, again, they will not cancel themselves out because traditionally, the Southwest and the Southeast, they've most of the time voted different ways. Now, the Southeast, we can yield that to obedient. The South-South, yes, maybe they'll be more like PDP people, but we are working very, very hard to ensure that at the very minimum, we are looking at about 30–40% in some of those places that have been traditionally held by opposition parties. And it's going to happen. Because we are talking of South-South, but Ayade now is fully APC. It's very likely that he will deliver that state. Then in Ebonyi, there is no less than 90% chances that the APC that has an incumbent in place would also win Ebonyi. Now, the beauty of all this election now is that we've been improving on our electoral process. It's not a place, there is no situation whereby you now say because somebody is from the North and as such, everybody in the North is going to vote for him.
That's what you've done with the Southeast. That's what you've done with the Southeast.
No, it's not everybody in the Southeast. But winning is a different kettle of fish. And you require 25% in a specific number of states. It's in the Southeast, APC would have 25% in many of the states there. Because we have a lot of big names, not only big names, politicians, core politicians, who are in the APC. And they're working.
Let me ask you, just a moment,
yes.
How much influence, because, I mean, before now, one of the things that was told the young people, especially youth groups who were largely dissatisfied with how the APC has handled matters at the federal level, and, you know, who are now, you know, ardent supporters of the Labour Party candidate who call themselves the Obedience, one of the things they have been told is that you don't have a structure. Where is your structure? And you are basing part of your calculations on the fact that you have big names, so to speak.
Who have structures.
Who have structure, so to speak.
Yes.
But I'm wondering, really, if we're now in an era of enlightenment, where largely people make up their minds for themselves who they want to vote for, regardless of, you know, who the big name within a party is in a particular community. How much influence would you say that these big names have on the grassroots or at the community level?
Okay, I would answer that. It's very simple. I'm from Oyekiti. And when there is an election, and I say, this is my party, I have paid some dues there that would endear the people to me, to vote. So in which case, I don't see an Obi coming to my local government to win an election. It's not possible because I relate to these people, and when they have needs, they call me. They're not going to pick their phone to call Obedient or call Atiku. So, and we have islands of people like that in the APC. They've done, it's not about the federal government. The federal government cannot do everything. It's the person they see. How do you relate to them? What have you done for them? What is your role in the community?
You don't think that people are beginning to delineate their loyalties? I mean, like if you were directly involved in the election, they can say, oh, we know to vote for you, but this person whom we have brought, we don't like the person. How about that?
It's possible. It is possible. But the person that we have brought, our candidate, everybody in this country knows Asiwaju.
Let me ask you.
He's been there.
Let me ask you, Mr. Momodu, how much influence do you think that these big names still wield in the politics? Because I'm sure you have been relating with young people. You've sensed a dissatisfaction. And in some instances, when you even mention big names, it seems to annoy them even more than placate them. What is your own experience?
Yeah, my experience is that our candidate, Atiku Abubakar, has the widest network in Nigeria and beyond. And he has surrounded himself with young people. He's very smart. He's the only one who had operated at the national level. All the other ones operated at the local level. So, as a global champion, we are able to go into every part of Nigeria, and you will find someone who is connected to the Atiku campaign. From his own calculation, APC has already lost the election. Because historically, whenever you have two strong southern candidates, it happened in 1979, it happened in 1983, Awolowo and Zik not being able to work together, they lost to Shagari. The same thing is going to happen. It's easier in the north to unite the people. Is it because in the north they take politics as a religion? Just like you have in Ghana, from the day you are born, you are either NDC or MPP. It's the same thing in the north. That is why we continue to complain. We will blow all the grammar on television and radio, but the people who will vote, if you saw what happened when Atiku Abubakar visited Bauchi last week, I saw movement. It was like a wind was blowing. Movement past movement. That is what we said at that time. So by the time you come to the south, where it says our friend, Professor Ben Ayade, is king, you will know that traditionally that is a PDP terrain. And that is a place where from the moment you are born, in Akwa Ibom, in Cross River, in River, most parts of Edo, where I come from, Delta, and now we have an opportunity to produce a vice president again from the South zone. Who is going to waste that? And that vice presidential candidate is not just from South, he's Infighting. So he has his roots to Igbo land. You don't have such opportunity. By the time you come to Lagos, which is the traditional base of Asiwaju of APC, you are going to split into three. I give it to you because of the preponderance of the Igbo community.
Why three?
Three. Oh, there will be Asiwaju, there will be followed by Atiku, then followed by Obi. I mean, there is a large Igbo community there, and there are a lot of young people who believe that Obi. So that is the most cosmopolitan state in Nigeria. But the moment you start moving into Ogun State, you go into Oyo State, where PDP is king today, because if you are talking about Benayade in Cross River, we are king in Oyo State. Then you go to Osun State, where you are going to have governor.
Are you king in Ogun State too?
No, I said the moment you start, oh, of course, we compete favorably. It will be between Asiwaju and Atiku. There is no way Obi is going to get 25% in Ogun State. He's not going to get it in Oyo State. He's not going to get it in Osun State. We can make all the noise. You saw what happened during the last gubernatorial election in Osun State. There was no party outside those two that could make any appreciable impact.
Okay, our colleagues in Lagos have questions for you both. Go ahead, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Senator Arishe, I'd like to start with you and to refer to, the reaction of the Deputy National Secretary of your party to a comment ascribed to the Minister of Labour when he was asked over whom to support between the Labour Party presidential candidate and your candidate, your presidential candidate, and he said it's a difficult question to answer. This is reminiscent of the president's comment at a Southeast event recently when he said that those who should talk about the achievements of his administration are not talking about it. So it would seem as if there are discordant tunes in your party as to the sellability of your candidate, and indeed based on the achievements of your party. How's the party dealing with this, and how do you think it will affect your chances at the polls?
I lost time.
Senator Arishe,
That's okay, but I didn't hear the totality of a question, but let me respond to the issue of Minister of Labour. You said the Minister of Labour could not tell who to vote for.
Yes, yes.
I mean, of the two candidates. Well, you would give it to the Southeast that they think it's their time to produce a president. But unfortunately, this has to be done through an election. You can't just handpick somebody and say, you are the next president. It's not possible. It has to go through an election. But as an Igbo person, if his sentiment is with Obi, that's, when you look at it, that questions the loyalty to the party, as that's the way I would look at it. For me, I'm an APC person. I would not, under any circumstance, have any difficulty choosing who my candidate is, unless I move from the party to another one. So for me, I didn't get the whole gist of that
but
conversation.
Then do you agree that he should resign?
Labor minister, yes.
Do you agree that he should resign based on the argument that as a sitting minister,
of course, if that,
he should be an apostle of your candidate?
Even asking him to resign shows lack of, I mean, it should be sacked. It's not a question of he should resign. If you are saying that you don't know your, and you are benefiting from the party, you are some, I mean, well, I do not want to criticize what I don't know the details about. But ordinarily, if that is the statement, to any minister, anybody serving under this government, who is not sure which party he wants to vote for, that person is just, I don't understand how people play games, around. It's very straightforward. If you ask me, I am not holding any post in APC, but I've chosen to be an APC member. So since I'm an APC member, you tell me this is our presidential candidate. That is my candidate, unless I'm in another party. Talk less of somebody who is holding a ministerial position. I don't think I want to get the details before I slaughter the man.
Well, Senator Arishe, even before you get the details, it will seem that that's a bold one. Let me now come to Mr. Momodu, you have spoken confidently about the chances of your party in the Southwest and even in the Southeast, which is where I'm headed. And we've seen the rallies in Delta State, the state where you have your vice presidential candidate, who's a sitting governor there. We've seen the rallies in the South, in Cross River State. I'm referring to the rallies of the Labour Party now, which seems a huge movement. Are you speaking in confidence out of wishful thinking now, or you're actually bold about the chances of your party in the South and in the Southeast, given the popularity of the Labour movement there?
I'm speaking as a good student of Nigerian history, a very good student of Nigerian history. Rallies alone will not determine who wins an election. I have no doubt in my mind that Peter Obi is a very popular candidate. But don't forget the proximity of Delta State to Southeast. In fact, they are almost one and the same. So if you have a rally, all you have to do is to cross over from Onitsha, from Oka, from everywhere. So these things can be arranged, but that is not where I'm going. Where I'm going is that if APC is saying they have big people in the Southeast, and we have two governors, one in Abia and one in Enugu, that tells you something. Then traditionally, Southeast and South-South are very pro-PDP. So there is a difference. APC is the one that we now have to struggle in those zones to make some impact. You have only Imo State at the moment. In Imo State, we will compete. We also have the Emeka Edewas and all of them in that zone. We have a lot. If you are talking about the biggest of the biggest in Nigerian politics, they are all there in the Southeast.
Okay.
So that is why I'm saying that we will do very well in the Southeast. We will do extremely well in the South-South, because that's our base.
But Chief,
that's where our vice presidential candidate comes from.
Let me quickly ask you something.
And when we now come to the Southwest, oh my God!
Well, just let me
Lagos.
Yes,
in three places. All the other places, it will be a straight fight between Atiku Abubakar and Tinubu.
Let me ask you a question, and I hope Senator Rishi might also want to respond to it. The spirit of the question Bukola asked is the agitation of young people all over the nation, and you know it seems it's the first time an organic number of huge number of young people are coming out to hold a position in politics in the country. The last time I heard something like this, you would recall, Chief Momodu, was in 1993 in the post-June 12 era. So it would seem like the young people are clearly dissatisfied with the two, parties represented in the studio in Abuja right there now. What is the message to them? Well, we can say that some have made up their minds, some are undecided, and some are, perhaps in your parties. What is the message to the young people that can give them hope that your party has something for them?
The message is simple and straightforward. We've had PDP as the longest, the oldest surviving political party in Nigeria. We've had the opportunity of juxtaposing what PDP did and what APC has done and still doing. Now, it is very clear that PDP was way ahead. Under President Obasanjo and Vice President Atiku Abubakar, we wrote off Nigeria's debts. Now, the debt is heavier than an elephant today. So people are seeing that. Number two is that elections are not won on agitation alone. Otherwise, everywhere in the world, opposition will get power every time there is an election. Elections are won through voters who are traditionally loyal to their parties and who are ready to queue up on the day of election. A lot of people who make noise sometimes are not able to translate that into reality. Atiku Abubakar is the only one who's been there. By the grace of God, next year will be 30 years of the June 12, 1993 anniversary. And it will be a crowning glory for my candidate. Why? In 1993, he was running against Chief Moshood Abiola and Alhaji Babagana Kingibe. He was asked to step down. Humbly, he complied. He was supposed to be vice presidential candidate to Chief Abiola. He didn't get it. He didn't complain. 6 years later, the same man became a governor in his state, and he was asked to pull out and become vice president. That shows that he's a child of destiny. He has paid his dues. If you look at the history of the world, the current president of Zambia tried it 7 times before he made it. President John Kufuor in Ghana did it 3 times. President Atta Mills in Ghana did it 3 times. Current President Nana Akufo-Addo did it 3 times. Buhari did it 4 times. Atiku has matured into the race. There is nobody. It's like you are bringing somebody in primary 1 to come and contest against somebody in A level. There is no basis for it. So let's give honor to whom it is due. 30 years after June 12th, we are going to have a man who made huge sacrifice. He will be on the ballot paper, and Nigerians will compensate him, and we will have an opportunity to have a completely cosmopolitan, detribalized Nigerian as president and commander-in-chief.
Well, thank you very much. I want to say that when you begin to reel out the profile of Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu, first, he's coming in to be president. Have been watching from the side. He's always been in this political game over the years. Not only was he a senator, he was the arrowhead of NADECO that allowed, even made possible, our ability to win power, democracy from the military. And of course, his activities post-June 12 that you referred to, which is about 30 years, is there in the public domain for everybody to know. Now, when he came in and he became governor of Lagos State, he had a blueprint. And that blueprint was like a development plan, which subsequent governors have built upon. What we are looking for is a government that can give us a 25, 50 years development plan to say, okay, this is where we are. Where do we want to be in another 10, 20, 50 years?
Did you suggest part of that plan to this current government?
To this current government? First of all, look at it this way. I wouldn't know his discussion with the president. But when you have people around the president, they are the ones to execute most of whatever dream the president has. And you would give it to him that surrounding himself with very brilliant fellows, regardless of religion or where you come from. When you look at Lagos State, the first state, you have an Igbo commissioner, you have people from Ekiti, you have from Ogun, serving as commissioners in his cabinet. So he has put that in practice. So we can trust that it's not about where you come from, okay, but it's about the capacity you have.
Part of the question that came through from my colleagues is that, you know, both parties, from the way both of you have put up your messages, it just come across as though, in spite of how lots of people or young people feel they've had enough of both political parties, that you both are still confident that it is still one of those parties that will win the elections, that notwithstanding, because you're talking about traditional votes. Because now people are saying, we're not happy with what we've seen before with PDP, not what we've seen with APC.
You know, I gave an example before. It's not even about when the youth, yes, they are agitating based on what they have seen and what they know. Now, we have been in politics. I took my own time before I joined politics.
That's why they want new people. They don't want those who have been there before, some of them suggest.
Now, but how do you now put new people without any experience? How would they run the government? So when you say they want new people, that is why you cannot...
New mindset, probably.
No, you cannot give it to America. That they have been practicing this democracy for many years. And you have a lot of youths there as well. but their president is...
But the system clearly is different from here. The system works...
It's very different. That is why we need somebody who is that exposed. Not only is Asiwaju American trained, not only is he a chartered accountant, he was auditor of Mobile, he worked for Deloitte and Touche, he worked for Anderson.
I don't know about being chartered.
Well, CPA, of course, that's what you have in the US. So when you look at being chartered in Nigeria, I'm not even discussing, he came in as auditor for Mobile International, Mobile producer in Nigeria. No, he has had that corporate experience. What the youth are looking for is a different method of governance. So it's not,
I wanted to respond to something.
Yes.
Senator Arishe, you said Asiwaju has been watching from the sidelines. The job of the commander-in-chief is not that of a watchman. It's that of a player. Atiku Abubakar has been a player at the highest level of government. The vice president of Nigeria is saddled with taking care of the economy and the well-being of the country. So when you compare in terms of credentials, you will know that once upon a time, both of them worked together.
You know, without much argument, I was in charge of privatization when I came to the Senate.
Yes.
And Vice President Atiku was the arrowhead of that privatization. Now, as good as privatization was desirable, the process and the people that got those items, were they able to add value, you know, to this economy at that time? But I'm not even here to criticize.
Well, gentlemen, we're out of time,
candidates.
really. But if you can just say a few seconds, were they able? He asked if they were able.
In fact, if you read El-Rufai's book, so the same way you are talking about privatization now, it will tell you that the man was open, was transparent, and he never interfered in the affairs
we have
of
to
privatization.
We have to thank both of you for coming on. Chief Dele Momo is the Director of Strategic Communication for the PDP. He's recently been appointed. And then Senator Ayarishe is a member of the APC and former Chairman Senate Committee, as you heard him say there, on privatization. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on today.
It's really my pleasure. Thank you.
All right.